Hi kittens, I'm Julie Savone, psychedelic facilitator, integration expert, and your guide for this wild ride, the Inner Trip, 365 days with plant medicine. I've helped hundreds of people use plant medicine, primarily psilocybin, to heal, expand, and step into their next level. But this year, I'm taking it even deeper. For the next 365 days, I'm bringing you with me. I'll be microdosing, journeying, integrating, and exploring what it really means to live a limitless life, with plant medicine as a tool, not a crutch. So if you're ready to feel more alive, more clear, more limitless, and you're down to do it with mushrooms and a little bit of sass, you're in the right place. Let's take the inner trip. Hi, kitten. My intention today is to take you through the exact integration exercise, the main focus of our embodiment work on the integration day of my retreats. So this is exactly what I use post journey. This is what I instruct my clients at retreats to use post journey. This is what I take people through in private ceremonies. And this is an exercise that has been refined over my past 8 retreats. It's been refined over my personal plant medicine use. This is what I use on myself, right? When I have journeys that are facilitated for me, when I take myself on journeys. So this is really something that is near and dear to my heart and something that I know works because I've seen people use it. And then I also, as always, really just want to be real with you guys because some real stuff has come up for me in the last couple of weeks. And as I record this episode, I'm heading into the Halloween weekend when I'm going to be taking myself once again on a journey and adapting it from the process that we kind of figured out didn't really work, which is trying to do an LSD journey right after a psilocybin. So I'm breaking it up. I'm giving myself a day in between, but again, testing out that formula because I ultimately get to go first and I want my babes in Costa Rica to have the best possible experience. So that's where I'll be heading this weekend. And I just kind of be real with everything that came up with for me in the integration period. And to say that, well, we'll get into this, but this is really this idea of the 50-50 concept, right? If you want to be able to hold higher levels of joy, abundance, goodness, love, bliss, we also get to be able to expand your capacity to hold the muck, the stuff that's not so great. No mud, no lotus. So, but it doesn't feel so great. Everything's a teacher, right? And it is ultimately what we make of it in these experiences. So I want to start off just diving into the integration experience and really getting clear on what this exercise tool is, how it works, what came up for me, how to use it, and then we'll move into kind of a brief update. So when we think about this integration exercise, the first thing that I always ask people to do is write down what values came up for you, what values became really clear for you during the journey. This can also be values, if you're having a time with this, that you feel like are your core values, right? Or your like top values. So this is actually an exercise. I mean, you can definitely do this looking at just your top values if you've never had a psychedelic journey, if you would like to go through this experience and think about like what really matters to me and am I living in it? That was a huge wake up call for me when I was an attorney and I hired my first coach. She had asked me some version of this question of like, what are your top values or what's important to you? And I had no idea. I had never thought about what my values are. It's like, values? What? I had to pull up a sheet. There's plenty of sheets you can Google. There's plenty of sheets that you can pull up in Google. That's like a list of values. And I would say go do that if you're thinking, I have no idea what she means. A great example, though, of how disjointed my life was as I realized peace was a really important value to me. And she said, okay, like, so how does peace show up in your life? And I was like, well, it doesn't, right? What was my embodiment of peace? Like a 0. So as I found out what was important to me and whether or not my life was a reflection of that and started to adjust accordingly, my life really started to bloom in a lot of beautiful ways because many people are living a life based on other people's values. I would say actually most human adults, their beliefs aren't really their own, meaning that they've just consumed what's going on around them, what they've learned from their parents, from their community, from their religious community, from school, all these things, and taken on that belief system as their own. They've never stopped to get curious, like, do I actually believe in this? Does this resonate with me? Does this have truth and meaning to me? And the same goes for their values, right? Like, my mom is a hustler. My mom's always doing something. That's who she is. That's how she operates in this world, and that's how I operated for a long time because that's what I was taught. That's what was reflected back to me from the main person I learned from, my mom. So take some time to think about this for yourself. And so you can do this exercise, whether or not you've ever gone on a psychedelic journey. You could be thinking about what are my top values, what's most important to me: peace, freedom, happiness, um, abundance. These are some very common ones. And if you've gone on a journey or you want to use this, you want to intentionally set yourself up for a journey and take yourself through this experience, and think about it on the flip side, then yeah, what came up for you, right? So I talked about how um, in my experience when I was sharing with you last week, uh, what came up for me, I realized I lost a lot of the reverence for plant medicine, for this ceremonial use of psilocybin. And so reverence was a value that I wrote down, right? I realized it had been missing, so I wrote it down because it was important to me. It came up a lot in the journey. Emotional integrity. I told you guys about how, scared I was of a lot of different things, the fear that came up for me. And to me, emotional integrity, I wrote emotional integrity and like honesty is being real with yourself about how you're feeling. So meeting your emotions where they are, giving them presence, allowing them to process, allowing all the thoughts you have about them to come up and out. So I'm sharing this just to show you how I'm connecting what came up for me on my journey and what you heard me say with how to use this exercise. So cool. You wrote down all of your values that are important to you or that came up to you on the journey. And then you get to really go through value by value and think about like what would a 10 out of 10 look like for me? And this is what's so important. It's for you. So freedom is a value that I think a lot of people list on their top 5, top 10 list, maybe even top 3. But freedom means so many different things to different people. Freedom can mean financial freedom, like being able to buy whatever you want, say yes to whatever experience. Freedom can mean doing the things you want. And I don't mean being able to buy them, but I mean like doing them without worrying what other people will think, or to be in a relationship where people aren't commenting on the things that you do. Like freedom has so many different flavors. So this is where this part of this experience is really important. And it also matters what things mean to you. So emotional integrity might not mean to everyone that you're giving yourself the space to feel your emotions, but to me, that is what it means, right? Reverence for a lot of people might be reverence and respect for God, but for me, it was reverence and respect for this process. I even put embodied leadership. And embodied leadership to me is like doing the things that I talk about, going first, taking the big scary steps, right? So get really clear on what a 10 looks like to you, and then rank yourself. So I'll take you through mine, and I'll take you through my rankings. And it's like okay, you know what a 10 looks like? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing with that value? So I wrote down joy, which is either my top or my top 2 value always, just in my life. Emotional integrity, limitless possibility, how good can it get? Which again isn't really a value, but was a theme. It's something that really matters to me, and it is like a very big idea that I'm playing with in this year. Reverence, self-trust, and embodied leadership. So I gave myself a 5 for joy. I clearly had been missing the plot a little bit on that one. I gave myself an 8.5 out of 10 for emotional integrity, because I sit with the feelings. Living in limitless possibility, I gave myself a 9.5. How good can it get? Gave myself a 6. And I feel like this really comes back to this joy. Where am I sneaking my joy? Reverence, gave myself a 4. Self-trust, 8.5. And embodied leadership, 10. And the 10s, we're going to come back to these, but basically you're going to have more sort of things in different areas depending on the rating that you gave yourself, which is just something to think about. It's like the exercise also isn't like even across each value, because if I'm already feel like I'm at a 10 on embodied leadership, where do I have room to grow? There's always room to grow, so maybe I shouldn't foreclose myself that possibility, but I was being very emotionally honest with myself in the moment, and I felt like I was a 10 out of 10 and I was crushing it. So I want to come back to this idea of embodied leadership though as well. So what you're going to do now is you're going to make yourself a cute little chart. I want you to think about on the top having 3 long columns, 3 areas. And you're going to title each one of the columns good, grow, and weed. I used to have these be different things, but as I've gotten more into gardening, they've changed to good, grow, and weed. Okay, cool. And then on the side, on the left-hand side, I want you to have as many horizontal rows as you have values. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values. And so therefore I had 7 rows and 3 columns, right? And so you made this bank where essentially you have 21 squares. I prefer to write this down. I think there's a lot that psychologically, from a memory perspective, from a learning perspective, all these positive perspectives, it's enhanced when you actually write something down. It really makes it sticky in our minds in a good way. So the 3 columns, good, grow, weed. Let me explain. What are you doing well for good, right? Where are you already embodying, right? Putting the action forth in accordance with the value. And unless you gave yourself a 0, I want you to give yourself something in this column. So for good and emotional integrity and honesty, I wrote that I meet my overwhelm and anxiety head on, and I journal and I process when I notice that it's coming up for me. I have a very short execution time for like sitting in discomfort. I don't really sit in discomfort, meaning like just sitting in it and not doing anything about it. When I can tell that it's there, I will do something about it. So that was something that's really good for me. It's already really strong. And now in the next column, grow. Grow is like, where are we tending to our garden? What are the things that we get to do either more of? I would actually say the good is where we get to do even more of these things. Like the good are the things you notice, like, okay, I'm already doing well on those. I'm doubling down. Good is like, what do you kind of know is missing? So for limitless possibility and grow, I want to read this book, and I have started this book. I'm going to come back to this book. This is going to be a through thread of The World is a Mirror. It's like, okay, you know what? If I really want to live in limitless possibility, I get to be reading these books that are discussing about how can we like expand our reality? How can we make our reality a reflection of exactly what we want to see in life? Beautiful. And then weed are the things that we get to stop doing, knock it off, that we know are not serving the value. So for joy, for weed, I put filling my schedule like to the brim. When I tell you, it's like I have this hour blocked off and that hour blocked off and here, and we're doing that and this and this. And it's just like, wow, a good way to suck all of the air and joy out of life is to overplan and give yourself no space. So these are examples of where I, use this exercise in my life. And when I was thinking about the one where I had a 10, right? It was like, I crush. I just wrote that across all columns. I crush this one, but we're going to come back to this idea. So you fill out this chart, and it can take you some time. And I will say, so for the ones that you already feel like you're doing super well, so what's a good one? Limitless possibility. I gave myself a 9.5. So there probably isn't a lot that I really have to weed, but I did write down for myself, like I sometimes focus on what hasn't happened yet. And when I say focus, I mean notice the lack of it. So in the book Conversations with God, God talks about like supplication as an actual really ineffective way of getting what you want. So when we pray for something and it's a supplication, it's an ask, it's like, oh God, please deliver me my husband or this child or whatever it is that we really want, $1 million. What are we saying to God or the universe or higher order consciousness, intelligence, whatever? We're saying, oh, I don't have this thing. We're speaking to and giving power to the lack of something. Versus in Conversations with God, what the recommendation was to feel grateful in advance for something. And when I heard that, I was so excited because that is part of my gratitude practice already. At the end of every day, usually outside on my swing, it's been raining lately, so I haven't been out there, but I will say 5 things I'm grateful for from that day, and I will really feel into the goodness and the energy of the thing. And taking that energy as fuel, I will be grateful in advance for 5 things that I am calling in, right? Like I I'm single. I would love to have a partner, a true partner, not a passenger, a co-pilot. And so when I think about my person, I call him my ocean. And I'll say like, okay, I'm so grateful I met my ocean. I'm so grateful to have him in my life. And I'll really feel that feeling of like, what is it like to have a partner? Like my top values in partnership are feeling seen, are feeling supported, and feeling cherished. So what is it like to feel seen, supported, and cherished by healthy, hot, funny, grounded man, right? Cool. Okay, I feel that. I'm grateful in advance for that. So we we want to bring the attitude of gratitude into the things that aren't here yet instead of focusing on their lack, right? So when it comes to like a sales goal, you might be like, I want to sell 10 spots in the program. But instead of like praying to God, I want to sell 10 spots in the program, like I want to make the sale, being grateful in advance of like, thank you so much. Like, this is how supported I feel. This is how abundant I feel. This is how I'm going to use this money. Like, I'm so excited that this happened. Really capitalizing on the energy of it already being done versus focusing on the lack. So that's what I meant when I said weeding out, focusing on what hasn't happened yet. Like, yes, we want to visualize, but even a visualization, inherent in a visualization, which is so scientifically proven to enhance a positive outcome, the outcome that we want, you're not visualizing it from a space of like wanting the thing. You're visualizing as if the thing has already happened and you've been successful in it. So athletes do this, right? For racing, skiing, which I guess is a race as well, whatever. So you're thinking about, okay, cool, like how do I win, right? And all these things that get to happen in order to do it. And you're learning from the version of you who has already won. And it's a end game exercise. And in the same way, gratitude gets to be an end game exercise. So cool, you've done this chart. And then so in my retreat space, how this works is, and in my private, in any plant medicine retreat, larger dose experience that you do with me, integration is built in, meaning like this exercise is part of the retreat that we do, and then you have a month of support afterwards to embody these changes with me, whether it be private, at a retreat, whatever. So in order to make sure that we're actually doing the thing that we said we were going to do, we make an overall declaration. So this declaration is like a bigger goal that's not going to happen in 1 week, 2 weeks. It really is something that's stretchy, meaning it's going to push us, but it is attainable. It could happen within a month. So because I only had 2 weeks, I knew I was going to take another dose in 2 weeks in anticipation of this, like, again, testing out the formula. I wrote my declaration down. In 2 weeks, I will be living an intentional, joyful, reverent life. So this was a little bit more of a elusive qualitative declaration. Normally, I think it's easier to start in a quantitative space because you can like really measure it and say, I'm doing that or I'm not. If qualitative just works better for you, then that's awesome. But something to like kind of put out there and have you marinate on, because I wouldn't suggest most people do something more qualitative to start. It's like, oh, I either did this or I didn't. But I knew these were big things that I was missing: intentionality, reverence, joy. And then you create a commitment, which is essentially a SMART goal. It's specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. Is it relevant and timely? Well, you can look up what a SMART goal is. I didn't invent that. But it's a specific thing, like an action that you're going to take that's going to further your progress toward their overall declaration. A commitment is a smaller step. A declaration is the bigger goal. So my commitment was to read the first 4 chapters of The World is a Mirror. And normally I have commitments spaced out as like a week, 2 weeks, and then we meet again at the end of the month. So in my retreat setting, we have 3 calls, virtual, obviously, in the group. So it's a week after the retreat, 2 weeks, and then a month. So everyone has an opportunity. Everyone makes a commitment at the retreat. You have an opportunity to make a new commitment at call 1. You have an opportunity to make a new commitment at call 2. And then call 3, we look at like, where did we get on our declaration, right? So this commitment was one thing that I knew was going to further that overall declaration of living a more joyful, intentional, reverent life. And I got the commitment from one of my grow columns in my values, right? So people always come away from these retreats thinking like, I'm going to do a million things. And it's kind of the same thing on New Year's, right? Like, I'm going to join a gym. I'm going to go to the gym every single day a week. I'm going to throw out all the chips in my house. I'm going to eat 150 grams of protein. I'm not going to eat any sugar. And they say they're going to do all of these things and they end up doing none of them, and they're really down on themselves, and the goals are not stretchy yet attainable. They're just like way too overstrung. They're outside of the sweet spot of discomfort and it doesn't happen, and then like the whole goal goes to shit, right? That's not my paradigm at retreats. So we pick one thing, and I would say the thing really snowballs. So, and I haven't like actually thought about this in advance. This is not a pre-canned answer, but I want to say like my commitment was to read the first 4 chapters in The World is a Mirror. Like, what else have I done? Oh, volunteering. I did 2 volunteering events. I volunteered last night and the night before, and I'm going to a dedication for my volunteering community in Big Brothers Big Sisters on Thursday. Planning activities. I've gotten stuff on the calendar with friends, way more. Sharing the ups and downs of what I'm doing on stories. Okay, so like I didn't even have to look, and I've already been doing these things without specifically thinking like I need to do all these things. Why? Because when you do one thing, you build trust with yourself, and that snowballs, and it becomes a natural evolution by just choosing to focus on the one thing, committing to it, showing up and doing it. And that also is a really good segue because I have been showing up more with the ups and downs on stories, and we've been having some downs, and I knew this was going to be a part of the process. I said I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like to see how good it can get, but I knew that with however good it got, it was going to, by way of the nature of existence in this 3D dualistic life, is gonna swing the other way in the pendulum, and it was gonna freaking suck sometimes. And guess what? It was sucking. It was sucking so bad that I had this day yesterday where like I canceled. I went to my volunteering, but I canceled everything else. And I never do that. Like, I don't feel good, I show up to a call. I have a podcast recording and a headache, I put on my blue light blockers and get on anyway. Like, I'm very much, if I make a commitment, you will see me. I will follow through. So I canceled everything and I got really quiet with myself, because here's the thing: when things are not working in your life, it is not a sign to push through, to go harder, to do more. It is always a sign to slow down and see, like, what is this teaching me? Your emotions are your guides. Your feelings are your guides. They are valid in the sense that they're communicating something with you, and it is really intense. It's really important for you to listen. So I sat with these feelings and I journaled on quite a few things. And what I realized in living my most limitless life, in seeing how good it can get for this next year, where I was out of integrity with myself, was not fully living by my own internal guidance when it came to my business. Guidance is internal. I say that a lot of times in my breathwork prep. If you've ever done breathwork with me, you probably have heard me say, guidance is internal. And here's the thing. I had a crazy 2025 in a good way in my personal life because of all these things that came up super intuitively that I just leaned into. And I was saying to myself, and I've said to other people, like, oh, I live so by my intuition. And I do in my personal life. I moved to Kansas City. I was going to start another business. I didn't. I had some pretty big windfalls in my personal life this year. But where I have been really outsourcing my powers in my business, and there's just been too much noise. I'm part of an awesome mastermind. I do my VIP weekends in person. I have a one-to-one coach. I have another coach for this program of like finding your it factor. And it's just like, whoa. Julie, and some people thrive in that. Some people, and we can talk about human design, but like have open centers and they need all these ideas, and like that is great for them. And some people really thrive in that. I am extremely intuitive. I have a very strong intuitive discernment that I have not been utilizing in my business. So I'm kind of shutting it down. Not my business, but I'm stepping away from a lot of mentorship and really focusing on listening to myself, because that was what was causing me so much discomfort. And that's also why like my schedule is so full, because I feel like I need to do so much because people keep telling you different things and ideas and do this and do that. And it's just like, wow, it has stripped away my joy. Because it has stripped away my joy, it stripped away my reverence. Because reverence does not have to be serious and melancholy. Reverence can be beautiful and joyful. It's stopped me from living in a realm of ultimate possibilities because I'm almost only following other people's possibilities for me. And it's like, what about my possibility? And so it was just this huge, like, oof, that was a big misalignment. And here's the thing too, like, you asked for things, and then you have to understand that the universe wants to provide them for you. So I asked to live a limitless life. I asked to see how good it can get. And so the universe is responding to me by showing me what is keeping me constrained and what is stopping the flow of goodness in my life. And right now I'm really seeing that as being like too much information and 2 cents and opinions and guidance in business in particular. And so we're backing away. We're taking a step back. I'm very excited about that. To follow my own flow and intuitive guidance, because I also like, I have so much information. I really just get to figure out what works for me, because business can work any way for you. And that's also what I love about like this work with plant medicine. It's like, it's showing you your own answers. I always say that psychedelics and plant medicine doesn't give you something that you don't already know, but it helps you see it and feel it in a really clear way that empowers you to take action on it from a space of understanding that like it is yours. It is your wisdom, right? And so that's what's so cool about my retreats. It's like I don't really like, people don't come on my retreats and then I tell them, "Oh, you need to leave your husband or whatever." That's never happened, but they have had people break up with their boyfriends. But what does happen is people come on my retreats and then they see these like disjointed things in their life, and then they make the decision to change, to make a shift, right? Like that's where I decided to move to Kansas City, and like all of these things that came about because it was so clear in the retreat space. And so the goal of integration isn't to like force you to do something or to I don't tell you what you need. I create a framework so that you can execute on what you already know you needed. Honestly, people already knew a lot of this stuff, but they needed the like confirmation and the feeling and the power of being like, ah, yes, this is it. So that's what integration is all about. It's not about telling you to do anything, but helping you listen to yourself and the voice that the mushies made really clear for you, the knowings. So my integration for you this week is I feel like there are so many good ones we could take away from this week. Honestly, I would really rather, instead of like telling you to do the whole exercise, if that's not calling to you, which obviously you can, and that would be a beautiful integration. My desire for you is to simply just think about like these values. Take some time, Google values list of values on the internet, and circle your top 5. What are the top 5 things that really matter to you in this life? That alone is such a powerful exercise. If you're like, I'm not in the space to like do this whole good grow weed thing, that's fine. But do that. Get clear on your values. And just like a little bonus one, the next time you feel like shit is hitting the fan, things are not going well, like I don't feel good, I don't like this, instead of avoiding, escaping, getting lost in it, or trying to push through it and like keep going at full speed, pause and just ask yourself what gets to shift. What is not in congruence with my values? So you kind of have to know the values to do that one. But that's also a very, very powerful practice that I think a lot of people try to do the opposite with. And when you can slow down, that's when the goodness happens. So, my kittens, I love you. I'll talk to you next time. And the next time I'll talk to you, I'll be doing my share of my mushroom journey ahead of LSD. So, we're in for a really good time. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. That's the end of today's trip. But remember, the real magic has always been inside of you. If this episode landed, send it to a friend who's ready to step into their next level. And make sure you're following the show so you never miss a dose. I'll be back again soon with another day on the path to your most limitless life. And until then, trust yourself, follow your intuition, and keep asking, how good can it get?